I just want to make a quick video of some stuff I've been looking at. Not that anyone cares about my opinion, but this day and age, you need to have an opinion. You need to know which side you stand. You can't be like, I don't know, whatever, I'm just going to go with these guys. And so my thoughts on the George Floyd thing, because it's been all over the place, and people ask what you think about it and what side you're going to be. So this is what side I am and what I think about it. First of all, I'm not going to get into tangent right now of the Black Lives Matter and the defunding of the police and the institutional racism, all that other stuff. I'm just going to get to the foundation of what kind of kicked this all off, which was the incident in Minneapolis where George Floyd died at the hands of the police. And so right now I'm just going to look at the facts, because there's too much of not looking at the facts going on. You get, oh, it's racist cops killed this black man, and let's run with that. And to me, I need evidence. And so looking at the facts of this of this occurrence in Minneapolis was that George Floyd did have a criminal background, and he was supposedly purchasing cigarettes and used a fake or a counterfeit $20 bill or whatever it was. And then he went to his car, and then the proprietors of the store, or the workers, came out and confronted him on the sidewalk, tried to get the cigarettes back. He refused. They said he was intoxicated and not acting normal. And then they went back and they called the police, and they told this to the police. So if this was racially motivated, there should be evidence, and that George Floyd was somehow targeted for who he was or what color he was. But the fact is, the police came to him because they were called. He was not targeted or sought out by anybody as a victim of some specific racial hate crime. So the police respond. They get there. They approach the car. George is in it. He resists them. At one point, an officer pulls a gun and holsters it. There's no audio, so we don't know what George was saying or doing at the time. But George is a big man, 6'7", and he was resisting the police when they tried to get him out of the vehicle. They take him out of the vehicle finally, and he is in visible distress. He looks like he's in pain. He's grimacing. He's pretty much crying for some reason. At this point, nothing's happened to him. This is just the state that he was, and like the store owner said, there's something wrong with this man. And so I was looking at this thing called excited delirium syndrome. And this is one report I saw. The police suspected he had excited delirium syndrome, which is why at one point they told the people that were in the car with him, hey, we're getting an ambulance for your buddy. And so they were looking at this as a medical type of emergency. And so they were bringing him over to the police car, at which point he collapses in front of the car, and he's saying he's claustrophobic, and at that point he's already stating that he can't breathe. And so if you research excited delirium syndrome, you look at this condition, and it's something that policemen are trained to recognize, and they did, and he showed all the symptoms of it. And according to the police training that I've looked at and some that I've talked to, the de-escalation training doesn't have a high likelihood of changing the outcome, because these people are in this mental state where you can't talk them out of it. You can't logic with them or reason with them. And so they say the first thing you want to do is physically restrain them, and then get medical attention, then sedate them for their own safety, because this is life-threatening type of a thing. And the actions need to be swift and efficient. You need all responders possible to get there. And this is usually brought on by abuse of meth and cocaine and PCP or mental problems. But in this case, he was on drugs, and that was found to be the case. And so death in this excited delirium syndrome is caused by profound acidosis and excess circulating of adrenaline. So one of the things that the police want to do is to stop the agitation or the exertion of the person. And so they need to, a lot of times, the police training is to get a man on each limb and to hold the person still, including the head. Someone needs to control the head. And you look at these videos of incidences through the years, and this is the dog pile of the police on the people, controlling them, and including the head. And there's a lot of images of cops kneeling on their heads. And policemen are usually not medically trained, just to the bare minimum anyway, and they're just trained to do their job, which at that time is to restrain the person, get medical attention, and then turn it over to them. Whereas medically trained people, they're going to tell you something different. They're going to tell you to avoid restraining them face down, or you'll have positional asphyxiation, which, is the case that happened here, and it's happened a lot of other times. It doesn't take much searching to find that this is something, unfortunately, that's common when people are suffering from this excited delirium. And so they say from a policeman's perspective that you can tell they're acting abnormal or intoxicated. They're far more violent than drunks, and 90% of the time the struggle goes to the ground, and it is recognized mental or excited delirium syndrome by the American Medical Association as of 2009 anyway, as a medical emergency that needs immediate EMS so that they can start the assessment and use ketamine or whatever to sedate this person. You want to avoid restraining large muscle groups. You want to minimize the buildup of lactic acid and decrease that risk of cardiac arrest. And, you know, if the policeman recognized that this was going on and called the paramedics on the way and then sat there on him, it seems weird to me watching the video at first without this knowledge that all these guys are just sitting on him like that. And if you look at it from the perspective that possibly they were just holding him still, waiting for medical, and trying to avoid any more excitement and keep people away from it. And it doesn't, to me, seem like it was second-degree murder, which is what Chauvin is being charged with. There was no intent to kill. You could make the case that maybe there was a difference or poor training. It's a lack of training and I don't know who you put that on, but to me it doesn't add up to a reaction that we're seeing in the world. So that's just my quick thoughts on it. Not that anyone cares, but to me, it's poor training, and the policemen acted in the way that they thought by restraining someone who had this, and it wasn't targeted, it wasn't based on race. I don't see the evidence of any of that there, but the narrative now is cops are bad and they're going out, and no black man's safe because they're going to run out and kill him. And it's crazy to me. It's a wag the dog type of thing. And they say no justice, no peace. I agree that there should be justice. And to me, justice is looking at the facts and agreeing to accepting what that evidence shows. And in this case, I predict whatever happens, it's going to be like a LA riot type of a thing, Rodney King, where if the justice that happens isn't the justice that they want, it's going to get crazy all over again. And I'm not going to be the one to say, oh, he was a bad guy and so he deserved what he got, because the idea of, like, if you got the bad guy, good guy, that's just not reality. If you get something that happened, a bad thing happens to a person, that doesn't make the victim a good guy. It just means they had something bad happen to him. And so the fact that George Floyd was a criminal in his past and committed an armed robbery against the pregnant woman and had his criminal history, that doesn't make him deserving of death. But the choices he's made in life to do drugs and to do these things, they contribute to that, and they should be considered. And to act like he's some kind of hero and idolize him and remember his name, and that's the thing of, because he's a victim of a bad guy, that must make him a good guy, and that's just too simple-minded. You don't have to be a good guy to be a victim of something bad.
It's not my intention to come across as insensitive or arrogant, like I know anything over anyone else. Honestly, a lot of channels that I respect are all condemning this. Pretty much everybody's condemning these cops and the actions that they committed on that day. And nobody's happy that George died. It's a tragic thing to see someone's life snuffed out, especially if they want to turn themselves around and trying to make a new start and better themselves. The potential to change is something that we have as human beings, and so you always hope for the best. You hate to see a tragic end like this. But I'm just trying to consider something that makes more sense to me. Does it make sense to me that somebody would be like, I'm going to show up and, oh, look, there's a black man, I'm going to murder him right now in this unusual way, right here in the street in front of everybody, today? It just seems odd to me. To me, it seems more like a case of incompetence and poor training. And I think the answer would be to give police officers not less funding, but better training to deal with people with mental issues and medical conditions and know how to deal with those type of things. And like I say, I'm just a regular guy, and this is just my opinions. And I'm not trying to change anyone's mind, because honestly, when you make up your mind in an emotional way and you see something so horrific, you feel passionate about it and you want to be outraged, and nothing down the road is going to change your mind later. It's been proven in things like hands up, don't shoot. But I challenge you to go and look at this possibility, look at the research, some of these other cases of excited delirium and the way that police have dealt with them. And there's several videos just as disturbing as this one. And there's even ones where the guys are crying for their fathers or pleading for Jesus as they're getting held down, and they're just extremely panicky, and they end up dying as well, and of all races. So it's something that's been around, and I just don't like that someone chooses to get a magnifying glass and spotlight certain things and just stir up that mob mentality and get us all suddenly worked up about some random event, which again is tragic, but it happens all the time. Not to belittle that, but it's life. And so I'm just going to post this up as something else to consider and to look at as a possibility. And let me know what you think. Probably going to get a lot of disagreement if anyone watches this, just because it's not a popular thing. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just like, hey, I'm going to go kill this guy right in the street right now. But I hope that's not the case.